Welcome back. Today, we're grappling with a really profound concept, the idea that maybe much of our perceived reality, it might actually be a carefully constructed system, a system of deception. Sent us this fascinating collection of excerpts is from a work titled The Matrix of Lies, Escaping the Simulation. And it suggests that, our understanding of media, education, even core belief systems could all be part of this false structure. So our mission is to unpack this provocative idea of a matrix. We'll explore its proposed origins, we'll look at the science the source suggests might mean you're waking up, and then we'll delve into potential paths to sort of navigate out of it, maybe find your true purpose. This isn't just abstract theory, okay? It's about understanding how deep this rabbit hole might really go and, what it could mean for your daily life, your perspective.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating about this source material, I think, is how it frames the Matrix. It's not just the digital thing we see in sci-fi movies. It frames it as something profoundly spiritual, a world system built on deception. That immediately expands the idea, right? Beyond just technology. It grounds it in these sort of ancient human concerns about truth, illusion. It really prompts us to question some fundamental assumptions about reality. And that's exactly what we'll try to do here, help you navigate this material, pinpoint the most critical insights. So yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, let's start with that core question then.
Yeah.
What exactly is this matrix the source material is talking about? It opens with a pretty stark statement, actually. It says, you were born into a system, one you didn't choose. You were given a name, a number, and a story before you could even speak. That's quite opening.
It really is. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the source asserts that the Matrix isn't merely digital. It's not a computer simulation in that sense. It's described as a global system built on deception, a spiritual construct. And this idea of a pervasive lie at the heart of the world system, well, it resonates with a lot of ancient texts, including, as the source points out, biblical ideas like the one in John 8.44 about a father of lies, suggesting, a foundational deceptive influence at play.
And it gives us some really concrete examples, too, almost unsettling examples of how this might show up in our everyday lives, like how our very identities might be manufactured. What does that mean exactly?
Absolutely. The source points to things like manufactured identities through labels, race, social class, political affiliations. Think about political tribes, for instance. The source implies they often dictate a pre-packaged set of beliefs. You get the sort of pre-written script instead of maybe truly independent thought. It also highlights controlled narratives in education, in media, even in religion. And it talks about false success metrics where things like money or fame or just comfort are presented as life's ultimate purpose.
So it's really about questioning the scripts we've been handed down, whether we realize it or not. The source even echoes that sentiment from Romans 12.2. Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed. That call to transformation really makes you wonder then, how did such a pervasive system even come to be? Where did it start?
Following that thread, the source takes us on quite a historical journey, tracing the origins of this matrix. It describes it as this long lineage starting way back with something called the Tower of Babel. Yeah, that's a fascinating angle, this idea of the Tower of Babel, from Genesis, as an early blueprint of global control. The story describes people trying to build a tower to reach the heavens, unifying under one language, one purpose, but a purpose that was separate from the divine. So the source then traces this Babylonian system, this impulse towards centralized, human-driven control through history, from ancient Babylon to Egypt, then Rome, and right up to today's corporate, political, and importantly, digital empires.
Right. It brings it directly into our current moment, doesn't it? Talking about how AI, entertainment, social media, they aren't just neutral tools. They play a significant role in reinforcing what it calls programmed behavior.
Yes, exactly. It suggests these modern technologies are powerful tools within this larger system. Tools may be designed to shape perception, reinforce certain narratives. The source also discusses what it calls false light systems. These are spiritual paths that, according to the source, might look benevolent or enlightened, but ultimately mislead or divert people from, let's say, genuine truth. Examples given include the prosperity gospel,
which often ties wealth to God's favor.
Right, and various New Age traps, often focused maybe on self-centered growth, and what it calls controlled religion.
Yeah.
It emphasizes how an adversary mimics the Most High to trap the chosen, referencing a passage in 2 Corinthians. So it posits this deliberate, strategic design to misguide people.
Okay, this is where it probably gets really interesting for a lot of our listeners. If this matrix is this pervasive system, how do you even know? How do you know if you're starting to see through it? What are the signs, according to this source, of waking up?
Well, the source offers several distinct indicators. It says you might start to feel disconnected from normal life,
Hmm.
or you might begin to question everything you were taught, even in church. You might develop this profound hunger for truth more than comfort, prioritizing genuine understanding over just easy answers or feeling good.
Hmm. That feeling of being called out of familiar structures, jobs, social circles, maybe even religious norms, that sounds incredibly impactful. It's almost like a quiet internal shift that tells you something fundamental isn't quite right. Is that the idea?
That's a good way to put it. The source mentions feeling burdened by a mission you can't fully explain, experiencing spiritual warfare, which implies facing opposition, both internal and external, a sense of isolation maybe, or sometimes a radical clarity that just changes everything. It highlights this profound shift, stating the truth doesn't just open your eyes, it separates you from the crowd, which naturally leads to the next critical question. If you sense you're waking up, what do you actually do about it?
Right. So for someone experiencing these signs, what's the path forward? The source does lay out some concrete steps, right, on how to exit the matrix.
It does. The initial step outlined is to reconnect with the Most High outside of systems. It encourages what it calls a fast from noise,
Right.
basically suggesting you detox from media, culture, and false doctrines. It's not just about disconnecting, it seems to be about creating space for clarity.
That sounds like a pretty significant cleanse, both digitally and spiritually. So after that detox, what does the source say about building a new foundation, a more authentic one?
Well, it emphasizes developing a direct, unfiltered relationship with YAH through scripture and spirit. And just to clarify for listeners, YAH is the term the source uses for the divine, the creator, like a sacred name for God. It also emphasizes practical grounding through things like stillness and observation. The aim is to recalibrate to natural frequency.
Natural frequency.
Ah.
What does that mean in this context?
As the source seems to describe it, it's about tuning back into an innate, uncorrupted sense of reality and truth. Almost like finding your internal compass again, away from the noise. And a key part of this deprogramming involves asking yourself, who told me that and why did I believe it? Really encouraging critical thinking about those deeply ingrained beliefs.
And connecting with others who are maybe on a similar path. That seems important too.
Indeed. It suggests finding and connecting with other remnant believers. And these are explicitly described as not popular, not mainstream. A remnant here meaning like a smaller group that holds on to a core understanding separate from the broader crowd. The source reinforces this call to separation with a quote from Revelation. "Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins." So it really highlights the individual's conscious journey out of these collective systems of deception.
Okay, but this isn't just about personal escape, is it? That's not the end goal. The source seems to move beyond simply exiting the matrix. It discusses your purpose once you've awakened. What is this mission in the real world?
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the source is very clear on this point. It says, the purpose of awakening is not escape, it's assignment. The idea is you are not meant to blend in anymore, but rather to reveal truth, maybe to be a catalyst for others.
That sounds like it could come with some pretty significant challenges, maybe even a sense of isolation.
Oh, it certainly implies that. The source prepares you, saying you will be misunderstood, labeled, mocked, but not moved. It stresses that real power comes through alignment, not applause. Meaning, genuine impact doesn't come from seeking external validation or popularity. Which does raise the question, what kind of impact can one person, one awakened individual, actually have in such a vast system? The source implies that while this remnant is small, referencing that biblical idea of the narrow gate that few find, it is ultimately unstoppable, precisely because of its alignment with truth, not with the system.
Wow, okay. This deep dive has truly challenged, I think, our standard understanding of reality, suggesting that so much of what we just accept as fact might be part of this larger spiritual system of deception. We've explored the source's ideas on the origins of this matrix, we've identified its signs of awakening, and discussed the active steps it suggests to break free and discover your true purpose.
Yeah, we've seen how this material really pushes us to reevaluate our identities, the narratives we consume daily. It urges this direct connection to truth outside of established systems. It presents this path of essentially deprogramming and realignment. And it emphasizes that this journey isn't just for personal liberation, it's framed as being for a greater mission revealing truth.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, as you navigate your own reality? The source leaves us with a really powerful final thought. It's a direct call, actually. It says, you weren't born to just exist. You were born to pierce the veil, disarm deception, and reflect the truth. They can label you whatever they want, but in the spirit, you're awake for a reason.
It's definitely a challenging perspective, but also potentially quite empowering. This framework could offer a way to understand feelings of resistance or disconnection you might experience in your own life. And perhaps the most compelling question it leaves us with, the one to really sit with, is what veil are you ready to pierce in your own life now that you've explored these profound ideas?